And the next morning, before I can wake up, somebody knocks at my door and confiscates my rifle, asks me to get into PT gear, and brings me down to the command tent. And I have no idea what's going on. He goes, "You're being told to stay here because we know you're selling secrets to the Chinese."
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but I noticed a huge portion of you are not subscribed. Guys, we are so close to 150,000 subscribers. So if you enjoy my content, then please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It only takes 1 second and it really helps a lot. Now let's get back to the video.
I joined the Marine Corps in 2004, right when I got out of high school, and I was in for 5 years. I was an 06, which is a communicator. I went to communications school in 29 Palms. That's in California. That's in the middle of a desert. It was a lot of fun. And then I had 2 deployments, one in 2006 for the entire year, and then one in 2008 for the first half of the year. So both of those were to a place called Camp Fallujah, which was just outside of the city of Fallujah in Iraq. There, I was a computer administrator. I was the server admin for what was called the Multinational Forces West Network, or MNFW network. And my story is about how in 2006, I was accused of selling secrets to the Chinese and made to kind of go through a couple of really torturous days over a fairly large misunderstanding. It was about, I don't know, I think maybe 6 months into my first deployment in 2006. And my buddy Jay and I were kind of like the heads of our particular fields. I ran the server network and he ran what was called the wide area network, or he just kind of was in charge of a lot of the routers and the firewalls. We were having a lot of issues with DNS name resolution. And that's the amount of time that it takes for a computer inside your network to ask for an IP address outside of the network so that it can leave and connect to like a website. Because if you type in google.com, you have to get a number back from DNS to be able to get out to Google. This process normally takes, 10 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds tops. But for us, that's at a home network. But for us, while we were deployed, it was taking upwards of 10 seconds, long enough for these queries to just start failing out, where people couldn't even connect to websites. And we were asked to try and fix this issue. So DNS resolution is done both on servers. So the Windows clients talk to the servers, and the servers talk to the firewalls. And it's this process of just kind of like passing up this request and getting an answer down. Jay was working on his stuff, and he determined that his stuff was coming back with answers really, really quickly. And so I started taking a look at mine, and our servers that were doing DNS for the clients inside of the network were the cause. They were the culprit. And so I started digging into the DNS services, and there was this huge blacklist of sites that you were just handing back bogus addresses. And it's what's called the DNS black hole. What happens is if you have a site that you don't want your clients to get to, you can configure your DNS server to give out like this answer, right? And it could just be a bogus answer that doesn't go anywhere. And then anybody that's trying to get to these sites using DNS isn't able to. The problem with that is Windows servers aren't very good at that. And this same blacklist that was here was configured on the firewalls as well. So I talked to Jay about it. I'm like, hey Jay, look, here's this huge list. I'm certain this is what's causing the issue. I was 21 at the time, 2021. And I was in charge of this whole network. It happened, just so happened that the guy that was supposed to be in charge of the servers ended up not re-enlisting like he said he was going to, got out before we deployed, and I was put into this position where I was like a 20-year-old admin for hundreds of servers, thousands of clients, user accounts, just tons of stuff. And they were like, you have to learn this, you have to do this now. And I didn't really have a mentor or anything. And we had only been doing it, for 6 months. And so I, 20-year-old me is like, what do you think we should do? Let's just pull this list out, right? if it's causing problems, who cares? And so Jay and I are just sitting there and we're like, yeah, let's just pull this list out. So I delete the entire DNS black hole from our servers. Jay confirms that all the same ones are on his firewalls. So none of these requests are going to go through anyways. They're just going to be answered from the firewall with the same bogus address that they would get from my servers. We tested afterwards. We were getting 10, 15 millisecond responses on DNS. We're like, hey, we fixed the problem. We're so awesome, right? Well, I go home, and the next morning before I can wake up, somebody knocks at my door and confiscates my rifle, asks me to get into PT gear, and brings me down to the command tent. And I have no idea what's going on. He won't talk to me. The only thing he's doing is telling me, get your stuff. We're going to bring you to the command tent. So I go, and I'm made to stand there. And I stand there the whole day. Nobody will tell me what's going on. I'm just put in the corner. They're like, hey, go over there, stand. So I'm in my PT gear and I'm just standing there, and I get a little bit fidgety throughout the day. They bring me food, and the only time that I can sit down is when they bring me food. And they put it on a table in front of me. I sit down. I take my time eating it because my legs are tired. I stand back up. They let me sit down some of the evening too, but I wasn't allowed to sleep. And the next day, it's the same thing. I haven't left the command tent. I'm just being fed. I did leave, obviously, to go to the bathroom, but like I haven't left the command tent. They won't let me go anywhere. And I'm being surveilled constantly, and nobody will tell me why I'm there. And I'm racking my brain. I can't figure it out. So it's towards the end of the second day where I've been mostly standing in this tent, few breaks to be able to go do a couple other things. And I walk into the captain's office. He summons me into his office and goes, I think you know why you're here. And I said, really, I don't. And he took out his badge. Like I said, he put it on the desk and he goes, this is my top secret badge. This conversation is classified and everything about this is classified. And I said, okay. He goes, you're being told to stay here because we know you're selling secrets to the Chinese. And I said, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. So he said, we know that you were working on this issue, and when you made the changes that you made, our firewalls started reporting a lot of traffic to Chinese websites, or attempted traffic to Chinese websites from clients from like Windows clients, computers inside of the network. And I said, okay. And he goes, and it just so happens that at that same time, we saw an influx of attacks on our IDS, our intrusion detection system, on our firewall. And I said, okay. And he goes, what do you have to say for yourself? And, I told him, I explained what we did, just as I explained it to you. This captain knew, he was a captain of communications, so he kind of knew what I was talking about a little bit. And this guy was one of the proudest guys that I've ever known. He wore it on his chest, on his shoulders, just like, I'm a captain, I'm the man. And I appealed to his nature in this conversation, and I was able to kind of like stroke his ego a little bit. I said, like, as we were working on this DNS issue, and I'm sure you're aware that Windows servers are really bad at this, and like Jay and I were doing this, and we pulled this huge list out, and it resolved this issue. But I was working really actively with him. You can talk with him. Like, I don't know what else could have gone on here. Like, I don't know about the timing for our IDS being triggered for attacks from China. I'm a good Marine. I do my job well. And at this point, I had gotten 2 Navy Achievement Medals. I had taken over the role of server administrator, learned it really quickly, and I was kind of like this star child of our battalion in that way. And so I was just like, this is just a big mistake. Of course I'm not selling secrets to the Chinese. And so he had me go back into the command tent. He let me sit down this time instead of having to stand in the corner. And he went out to talk to my buddy Jay. to get his side of the story and corroborate everything. I don't know what they were doing during those two days. I've never been able to find out. I think they were just talking to the information assurance guys. They were trying to figure out what all had happened. So Captain Batir comes back, and he sits down and he talks with me. He's like, okay, your story makes sense, but you should have asked for a change on this. This is still a huge oversight. We're going to need to punish you anyways. I got put on camp guard for 2 weeks, which is not that big of a deal. You just sit around in a box for 8 hours, and you have the other 16 hours off, and you like escort the water trucks. And that's what I did for 2 weeks. I just kind of sat around. I escorted people around our camp when I needed to. I had a logbook, and I went to the gym a lot. And then they just let me go back to work after that. When I got back to work,
we were laughing, my peers and I, about how ridiculous this all was. My friends and I took this kind of Tupac photo or scapegoat was written on my stomach because I was the one that ended up taking the blame. No one really wanted to address anything outside of that.
I was able to finally talk to Jay, the firewall guy. I said, what happened? Like, how did this go so sideways? And so apparently the firewalls report back to a service called McNOSC, which is like the Marine Corps Network Operations Center. And our servers don't do that. So when our servers were running the black hole, it would just quietly drop this traffic. It wouldn't report anything to McNOSC. Well, when I took that huge list out, all those requests, instead of dying at the server, moved up to the firewall. So they saw this massive spike in requests that were all blacklist requests that seemingly came out of nowhere right at the time that I made changes on the servers. And they're like, a vast majority of these requests were for internal clients to go to China. And it did overlap with an incoming attack that we had, but we get attacked pretty regularly. Deployed networks get attacked pretty regularly. So that was just coincidental. And they were putting together things that shouldn't have been put together, lining up dots that shouldn't have been lined up. And I was literally basically tortured for 2 days, not allowed to sleep, not allowed to sit down really, and accused of selling secrets to the Chinese. And that's my story.
If you want to help support the channel, then please consider subscribing. It only takes 1 second and it really does help a lot. And if you enjoyed this video, then maybe leave a like and a comment. If you'd like to be a part of my community, you should join the Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links are down in the description below.